Super Grandmasters and Grandmasters ranging from age 15 to 54 are competing in the Julius Baer Generation Cup. And oh my god, this has been a slugfest. There have been grueling 80 plus move games, and there have also been short one-sided chess miniatures and 20 to 30 moves. I want to share 3 dominant chess performances with you, and with each game, I'll make a note of how big the age difference is. And for clarity, all these games are coming strictly from the prelims. I'm recording this just as the prelims are finishing, so the knockout rounds have not begun yet. And how can we start with anyone other than the guy in the spotlight? It's 19-year-old chess prodigy Hans Niemann. He's playing against Levon Aronian, who is 39 years old and is having a couple of rough tournaments. He didn't score very well in the Olympiad despite playing people exclusively lower rated than him. And he's in near last place for the Julius Baer Generation Cup. But for Hans, I've been trying to review some of his games recently just to study them, and it surprises me every time how good he is with these Zwischenzug or in-between moves. So basically, in the middle of a tactical exchange, he will always find these in-between moves that surprise me and sometimes his opponent as well. And you'll see here he lashes out with g4 and also f4. And here Levon tries to get a little bit too fancy for his own good, right? This knight is basically pseudo trapped. The only square for it to go to is knight c6, and that's the best continuation for black. Kind of like offering and trade here and everything. But rook c8 has an idea to trade off this knight this way. See, f takes e5, queen takes, and rook takes. And you're also coming with tempo, and everything's fine and dandy. But what Levon missed was that after rook c8, f takes e5 is not forced. Knight b5 is an idea here. And after pawn takes and knight takes, well, this queen's getting hit with tempo, and your knight's hanging. So what do? You take the c pawn, but Levon gives up a fork. A simple fork that is just missed in the middle of this entire thing. And after knight is taken here, Levon has one more chance. Obviously, the engine is just hugely massive in the favor for white, but there's one more chance to have some sort of fight left in this. That'd be queen takes d2, bishop takes, and from here, let's just say you take this pawn. Even if you lose this bishop, well, hey, this rook is hanging, and at least you're down just an exchange, and you can try and hold on for dear life. But instead of all that, Levon just takes the pawn in the middle of the board. I guess Levon was also afraid of the rook taking on f7. And then queen b4 is like a huge knockout punch because there's a huge tactical threat here. There's a discovered check, right? And instead of like trying to block any sort of discovery or move the king, we get queen takes e2. Levon in the middle of this huge tactical firefight takes a free bishop and hangs mate in 3. Pause the video if you can solve for mate in 3. I dropped a subtle hint earlier. Knight f5 check. Levon resigns on the spot. This is a double check, which is pretty much the most powerful tactic in all of chess, is a double check because it forces the king to move, and it doesn't matter that this is hanging 2 different ways. The king has to move. Queen comes in, gives a check, and delivers checkmate on e7. Levon lasted 21 moves before Hans Niemann absolutely crushed him. Crazy. And with this win and many others, Hans Niemann puts up a performance that gets him through the prelims to the knockout rounds. Now we go to the other side of the chess drama, to Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen is age 31, and he's playing against Arjun Erigaisi, who's age 19, so it's a 12-year age gap. Also, by the way, Magnus Carlsen resigned after 1 move versus Hans Niemann in this event, but that is literally the only loss he's taken through 15 rounds. Absolutely absurdity. But here, he's playing the modern defense, and he starts immediately pushing all his queenside pawns. Just immediately starting to attack on that side, and when Arjun pushes e5 in the center, Magnus is like, how about b4? If you take my knight, I will take your knight, hitting your queen with tempo, and if you think that you are going to queen on h8 if I take your queen, this is check. So you're not gonna. You have to move, and then you're gonna be down a queen. So instead of doing all that, Arjun's like, "Let me save my knight," and Magnus is like, "I'll save mine too." And now Magnus starts coordinating his pieces for a queenside attack, including castling. He castles long. What is going on? I have no idea. But basically, over here, Arjun goes for this tactic because he thinks, okay, if pawn takes, queen takes, white just won a pawn, right? But Magnus is better than that. He's like, the whole point of queen a4, did you not see that move? So Magnus is kind of just saying, like, I don't need your bishop. And then here he's like, I don't need my bishop because you can take right now, because obviously this is going to be catastrophic. And so instead, now he gives that check anyway. And now he brings the knight in to hit the queen. The queen moves, but then the bishop saves itself to reroute into a deflection. Where does this queen even go? I mean, this square is covered. These squares are covered. So the queen's trapped. So it basically desperados itself, and Arjun Erigaisi resigns because he's down a queen for 2 pieces, and this c-pawn is super weak. Rook c8's coming, so even if you try this, I mean, you can try and run, but this is check, and the queen and bishop line up together. If you try to run this way, then this is, you can take, but the queen and bishop, again, line up together, and it is going to be catastrophic. So Magnus Carlsen continues his rampage, and he's going to be seeded #1 in the knockout rounds. Next up, we have redemption for Arjun Erigaisi. So he is going to be playing Vasyl Ivanchuk, who is 53 years old. So 53 versus 19, that is a 34-year age difference. That's older than Magnus is total. But here, Arjun goes with d4, and we get into a Trompowsky, which I've been learning, so I'm loving to see this. But of course, this is like nothing like anything I play. But he saves the bishop, and here the bishop goes all the way back. And all right, this is when the fun starts. So the knight takes, discovering an attack on the knight on g4. But Ivanchuk's like, no, I'll just, if you take, then I'll take your knight. So we'll trade this way. But Ivanchuk's like, actually, I'll just make progress and move my pieces forward. After this knight jumps out, there's tactics right here. This bishop is hanging, and this knight's hanging. But what you can do as white is you can sack the bishop because you're going to take a pawn with you, and then you're going to win the knight. So now Arjun is up a pawn, and the game continues. So bishop takes knight, and queen comes to help support this weak g-pawn, but queen h5, check. King moves back, and wait, isn't that hanging? No, it's not hanging because bishop a3, and it's tactically defended. You would lose a queen. So instead of that, black brings their rook to hit the queen with tempo. Queen goes all the way back, and the king gets out of any sort of these bishop a3 tactics. And here we go, pushes. And you might think, oh, wouldn't the knight just go back to the only square where it's not hanging? But then you run into like f4, e5, and it's pretty bad because you move this back. Here. You basically have to sacrifice the knight anyway. So the way that Ivanchuk decides to do it is he sacrifices the knight forward. And if you take, then this knight is hanging. There's no more bishop a3 tactics. So it's all good, but it's not. Because this knight doesn't have to be protected. It can just take and say, look, your piece is hanging. Ivanchuk tries to save it while hitting the queen with tempo. But the queen goes forward and starts invading black's territory, and the knight takes the e-pawn, but it's not the right move because the bishop comes out, and what's the idea? After the queen offers a trade, Arjun's like, absolutely, I will take, because then I hit you with a double attack. 2 pieces are hanging, and both pieces are black. What do I mean by that? Well, obviously the rook is hanging, but this knight is also hanging. Why is it hanging? Because if you move backwards, and just gang up on this horse, then rook takes e4. Rook takes e4. Knight d6, fork. And that would be catastrophic. So and then let's just say, knight rook takes here, rook takes knight, you're just down a full piece. So in this position, after bishop d4, Ivanchuk straight up resigned. The youngster Arjun Erigaisi is like 2nd or 3rd, so he's also moving on to the knockout rounds. And there's bonus. One last game. It's Christopher Yoo, who is 15 years old, versus Vasyl Ivanchuk, 53 years old. So only a 38-year age difference. Insanity. But I'm just zooming through this because I just want to show a very funny thing that happened. Only 27 moves in, and nothing crazy here. The engine's like relatively equal. White resigns, or they got flagged. With 10-second increment, I believe that Ivanchuk flagged because, yes, sure, this fence of 4 pawns might look a little scary, but I don't think it's a resignable situation. You let me know if I'm way off here, but 27 moves in, this is the final position. Hope you enjoyed the recaps, and if you want to see more tactical fireworks, then go check out this video right here. Happy learning, everyone.